Some beautiful examples of the magnetophones here.
Number of the phones that are used here in the island. Do you see the phone on the lower right there, or the lower side with the dial? Yes. And there's an interesting story about those.
That's actually similar to the one at the Barishwa Inn. It's probably the same model.
The first telephone exchange that was automated on Prince Edward Island was the Summerside Exchange. And that was, they started the automation in 1949, completed it in the beginning of 1950. Now, in preparation, they installed a number of these phones in Summerside, only without dial. Before they started up the exchange, they added the dials to them and tied the dial so it couldn't be used using twine. The day that they started the exchange, an announcement came over the radio and in the newspapers, you can now cut the cord on your phones and use your dial. Well, later that day they got a call from a lady, and she was a real panic. Your phone wouldn't work. She cut the cord all right.
Oh, she cut the wall cord. Oh my goodness.
And that was a favorite story of one of the old presidents of Island Tel.
Yeah.
Told that story. And in the middle there, that just gives you a show of, 500 era and later telephones.
Right, yeah, we have one just like this in our guest room at our house.
Now, one you don't likely have is one just like the green one right next to it.
No, just the keypad alone.
Well, the keypad and the telephone to the right of it go together.
Oh, okay, so it was a way to add the touch tone capability with an older dial?
Yes and no. Back in those days, back in the early days of telephone, of computer, they'd have to dial in using pulse because the telephone system didn't support
Right.
Didn't support dial or touch tone, and then they'd have to navigate through the system using the pulse.
I see. Okay.
So they'd have to dial it up, and then they'd get through the system using the pulse dial.
Interesting.
Off the offside. Now that's fairly rare. There's very few of those left.
Sure. I had never seen one myself.
To the right, the red device, that is a teletrainer. Those were taken to schools around North America, and they're used to teach children how to use the telephone.
Oh.
And how to talk on the telephone, how a telephone works, and how to call for help on the telephone.
Something that kids really don't necessarily pick up. They watch mommy and daddy on the cell phones, but when we've had a younger person come to our home, we show them a rotary, and of course they don't even know that it's a telephone.
I had a child that was here that called the rotary phones that chase your fingers. Which I thought was kind of cute. Pretty good description.
There was a girl about 10 years old, a friend of our family, and we actually taught her how to use our dial phone. We had the same exact model. And so, okay, what's your phone number? And she said, I believe that she says 273. So we had her go to this. Okay, you pull your finger down. Now let go. Okay, now go to the 7. You bring it all the way around and let go. And then she went on for the other the other 5 digits, and then she heard her family's answering machine because they were over at our house, so there was nobody there, obviously. And she didn't leave a message, but she hung up, and I said, well, what do you think? She says, wow, it took a really long time. That was her response.
I've had some funny things with kids happen. I had that payphone hooked up to a line for a while, the one out in the porch.
Oh, yeah.
Little kid went out there and he was pretending to call home. So he dialed the number. His mother answered. He nearly freaked out. It was so cute. He just loved that anyway.
Yeah, that's funny.
And this sort of, I don't know how you want to do this, but we sort of go in a circle there, start back under the clock there.
That sounds good to me.
Those are uniphones. Now, Northern Electric, once the Bell system started breaking apart, they started doing some of their own R&D work and developing their own phones. Those funny blocky triangular phones up above are the Northern Electric's equivalent of the 302. They came up 2 years before the 302 did in the bell system
Okay.
to the south. They are essentially a 302 inside,
Mm-hmm.
but predated them by a long shot. They had a Northern designed handset.
And that's so it's got the ringer, it's got the induction coil and
Everything.
condenser, everything.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And below it, to show you the Northern wasn't just one trick company. The speaker horn for a radio, that's Northern, and the candlestick-like microphone for a transmitter.
Mm-hmm.
They were made by them. They also made items like fans, all sorts of electrical supplies, kitchen stoves, the works up until the 50s.
And this one I found interesting. It's the magneto box connected to the handset.
Yeah, they had two two styles. Well, they had more than two styles, but they had two types of uniform. They had the gutless versions, which is connected to that, and they had the complete versions. Number 1, number 2 were the complete versions, and number 4 and number 5 were the gutless versions, and they're for different purposes. If somebody was just upgrading a magneto install, they'd use the gutless version. Much cheaper to do.
And I must add, we just added this exact model to our collection, and I installed it above our garage in the attic because it was the one room in the house we didn't actually have a phone already hooked up, but I wanted to have it working. So we just added that, and it's just so neat to have. It's from 1954, all the components inside, stamped 1954. But it's so great to see familiar things.
Now down that wall in the lower part, you'll see telephones right up pretty well to the end of production at Nortel. That's where I put my cutoff, because people are familiar with these phones as I see them.
Right.
The second phone to the right up above, over here, the gray one there, yeah, that is an RCA phone.
I see that.
Sound-powered phone that was used in the Prince Edward Island car ferry.
Oh, wow.
Stripped out of the engine room of the car ferry the year that they moved it.
Sound powered, so no battery booster of any kind?
Indeed.
Wow.
Yeah.
When we went to the Ellsworth Museum, one of the first demonstrations they gave you was using the transmitters and receivers hooked up just by the wires themselves. Danita went into one room, I went around the corner into the other, and just using just those pieces that of course have the carbon inside that creates the little electricity charge, we were able to hear one another with no electricity whatsoever, just the wires connecting with the transmitters.
Now,
So I could see, I understand the concept of that.
Have you heard of blue boxing?
Yes, I read the Exploding the Phone
Look right
book.
there. That's one of the artifacts that showed up, the stuff for Don Woodbury. That actually works still. Well, it won't work on the phone lines,
Right.
because they no longer use the same signaling.
Right,
But
they would
that
send the
actually-
signals.
That actually works.
Oh my goodness. Yes, the key push and the stop. Oh, I love it.
And all I had to do was change the
Oh,
battery.
that was the whistle off tune, the 1200 hertz, I believe. Yes.
So
Oh, that's fabulous.
you left it turned off, did you?
No, I just turned it off.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I wouldn't leave anything like that on because then you have to replace the battery.
Yeah, and the battery can leak when it.
Of course. Yeah, you don't want anything to happen to that. Oh, I love it.
And that just showed up in one of the boxes. I mean, it was one of the real surprises in that box.
Yes.
Some of the stuff was real gems, and some of the stuff that's out there still are real gems. Only I don't have enough room for them. So, and that is a 555 switchboard, just like Bernstein used on Rowan Martin's laugh in. One
Beautiful.
rainy day, two rainy day.
We're actually old enough to remember that.
A lot aren't. It's quite shocking, really. When
Well, if you consider, just how the years go by so fast, that most young adults, any millennials, would not be familiar with
No.
even any of these phones that to us aren't all that old.
Oh, I know.
The world changed so completely in the United States when the
Basically,
bell
I saw
phone.
all of these phones during my lifetime.
Oh, sure.
Up in Ontario, when we're in Brockville, we had dial phones, of course. But down here, it was still all magneto. Any phone that was down here was a magneto phone. That's basically a call box.
Yep.
And I have a few more of those out back, by the way.
I like that you've got all the labels done. When I get some good
Yeah,
close-ups
I need to do
of
more
them-
labels too.
Yeah.
I've got so much more when I was doing those labels.
Yeah, no unauthorized phone calls on this set here. Ah.
And the same thing too of that green set. It's got a lock on it.
I noticed that.
And over here it gets a little interesting again. I'll move this out of the way here. Oh, those.
I like your
I gotta sit here, but it's just
your
these
phone book
legs.
collection, by the way, and you
Yeah.
have the nice list on your website of
Yeah, right
the
up-
years you have and the years
Right
you
up
need.
till this year, what a fight it was to get one for this year. They missed us. And we noticed in June, and most of the island noticed in June, and they were no longer willing to deliver them. Our contract with our deliverers is over. And, I pointed out, well, look, your deliverers only got it to 20% of island homes. You know how many homes there are with phones on the island. Why did they only deliver 20% of those? And then I got a bunch of advertisers who were paying to advertise in the Yellow Pages, because they're publishing it now. I got them to call up and complain that they wouldn't be using the Yellow Pages again because they weren't being delivered to the target audience they were told they would be.
And I know that my wife and I recognize this, having seen them in action at the Ellsworth Museum. Stroger or Stroger?
These are British Stroger.
Stroger. I couldn't remember the pronunciation.
Yeah. Well, an awful lot of people, including myself, used to call them Strouger, but Stroger is the proper pronunciation. These were off that 1950 exchange that I told you about in Summerside.
Yes.
These were 5 switches that were left over, and we were able to build a whole system out of them last year. And it works. It does have a problematical connector in that it doesn't necessarily sense that you picked up the phone.
Oh, so if we tried to just do it right now?
I'd have to turn it on and everything.
Oh, okay.
And I'd rather not right now, to be honest with you.
That's quite all right. That's okay.
I haven't even checked it out this spring.
We've seen them working.
We're fine in the fall anyway.
We've seen them work.
Yeah. We've got lots more to show you as we go around.
Okay.